There, that's better. Well, we're already off to a rousing start, I tell you. Well, good morning out there to everybody in internet land. Hi, and how are you doing? My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome to Front Porch Brunch. This thing we do on the weekend where we get together and we talk about the news. We give our views. We let everybody know that we're loud and proud. Tell them what we think about everything. And otherwise try to survive this crazy thing that we call life. We are on Rumble, we are on Twitter, and we are on that quaint little alternative social media platform known as YouTube. So please, if you haven't done it yet, I would really appreciate it. Take that link, share it around to your friends and tell them, hey, get in here. You've poured yourself a cup of coffee, you got your first load of laundry in the washing machine, you know, you've cleaned up the dishes from breakfast. Come on in, let's have some fun. Let's talk about what's going on in the world. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, and we welcome you in to what is going to be hopefully a nice, entertaining, and just making sure all my stuff. There we go. We're connected up. All right, good. Fun, entertaining, and good time on this Saturday morning. Glad to have all you guys here with us. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. I am known in social media. Sometimes I go by the handle, the wise guy in the wide brim. Sometimes I'm known as the common man with common sense. But in this moment, when we are gathered together, above all else, I am known as your host. Again, we are on Rumble, we are on Twitter, and we are on that quaint little alternative social media platform known as YouTube. So please share the link, leave a thumbs up in chat, leave a comment in chat, leave a thumbs up everywhere you can. Tell your friends, share it around, get everybody in here. Let us have a great and good time as we know we are wont to do. Love you guys, and oh my goodness, we're going to have fun this morning. We're going to have fun. It's the weekend. As if everybody is not decompressing already. What? Stop that. Hey. No overtime for you guys. Okay? Cool it. Man, if you don't stay right on top of the band, they're going to try and work you for that extra cheddar cheese. Terrible, I say. Terrible indeed. Anyway, glad to have you all here this morning. Good looking crowd is hanging out with us. And it's going to be a good time this morning. I've been up, I've had breakfast, got a chance to shave some of the ugly off my face, took a bath. So I actually smell good for you guys, you know. It's the things I do for this audience. It's just amazing. Just amazing. Oh, goodness. Hang on. I'm just putting some last little things together that WWG1 sent me over on Rumble, just so I can make sure I got everything put in place. Then we'll say some hellos and get this party started in earnest. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Good. I think I got everything WWG1 sent me. All right. That takes care of it. All right. Let's see who's in the house this morning. We'll start on the YouTube side. And good morning, Miss Gypsy. Mwah. How you doing, darling? Z Highness is in the house. Porchy. Z, baby. Mwah. Adam is here. Boom. Fist bump to you, sir. Happy Saturday. Shalom Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, Porch peeps. Well, Shabbat Shalom to you too, sir. Zippy's in the house. I think that cat's moving around between Rumble and YouTube. But good morning, Zippy. Boom. Or is it in your case because you're a cat? Anyway, we'll figure it out. Good morning, lovely Lana. Mwah! Let's see. Not out yet with the laundry. Okay. Oh, I did my first load of laundry last night, dear. Yeah, I am. Look, when you're a one-man band, it's like, believe me, you do laundry when you get the chance. And last night I was like, great, I'm not too tired. The week is done. I'm growing into the weekend. Yeah, let's get the laundry started. Let's see. Who else is here in the house? Zippy says, I shaved my ugly face once. An angel descended and took the ugly and left me with a broken mirror. All right. Strange, but we'll go with it. All right, let's see who's over on the Rumble side. WWG1's obviously in the house, and TBA is here. Good, happy Saturday, Front Porch Brunchers. Yes, indeed. Happy Saturday indeed. Who else is here? Gypsy's kind of bouncing back and forth. Zippy's catting around between both platforms. Morning Mayhem is here. Chris, how you doing? Good morning, fellow wingnuts. Good morning to you, sir, and daggone proud of Georgia. Got to tell you, daggone proud of Georgia. Let's see. TBA says, I've got to rake leaves today. I got to do some of that too. So, well, in my case, it's more like a leaf blower and a mulcher with my lawnmower. I'm going to mulch that crap up, put it in bags, and let somebody else take it out. No, that raking stuff, that's too much energy. But I agree with you. I get what you're coming from. All right. I think I've got caught up with about everybody. Glad to have you all here this morning. Not a lot necessarily per se this morning, but hopefully a lot that induces conversation. And like y'all, I'm still trying to catch up from the week, still trying to catch up on my sleep, which I think I'm getting there slowly but surely, getting back to normal. The normal 3 hours a night. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. TBA says, I've got a little bit of woods next to me, so that's where I put the leaves. They self-compost over the course of time. Well, that's not a bad idea. Oh, by the way, did you all see where Colorado got their first major snowstorm of the year? One of our favorite visitors to the electronic front porch, Jessica Fensky, a.k.a. Forest Mommy, took a video of herself, walking around in the snow. She said it was about hip deep on her, and I think she goes about 5'4", 5'5", somewhere in there. So if it's up to her hip, you got to figure that's like 2-3 feet of snow. So we're not even past Thanksgiving yet. So TBA says, so did the Saudi desert, got snow for the first time in their recorded history. Really? When did this happen, by the way? When did this happen? Oh, my goodness. I'd be curious to know. Let's see. Chris is like, I'm in Georgia. What's snow? What is this thing of which you speak? Yeah, I agree with you. There you go. All right. Let us get down to business, my friends. Let us get down to business. Got some memes for y'all this morning, as we are wont to do to start this live stream. And I guess we'll start off. Hang on a second. I got to take myself off screen for a second. Be right back. Just to make this thing work. Yeah. Well, maybe. Hang on. Okay. Be with you in a second, folks. Just had to... Oh, daggone it. That didn't work either. What do I know about live streaming or using this crazy thing? All right. There we go. Sorry, I'm kind of pulling myself together here. All right, we got some memes. Some of them compliments of our good friend WWG1, who is always a meme machine, at least in terms of his ability to find them. And sometimes he'll even create them. But have you noticed the changes in the grocery store lately? I mean, it's always said that we're doing things to accommodate a certain demographic, particularly in whatever line of business you find yourself in. Well, apparently the grocery business is now accommodating a particular niche. However, I'm not so sure if this is going to lead to increased sales or increased frustration, because I don't know. So this is the aisle, apparently at your local grocery store for the strong independent whammon. In this aisle, you can find cat food, wine, cat toys, and meals for one. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. This might be something that leads to a little bit of aggravation and consternation. I'm just saying. Don't quite know what to make of this, but there you go. There you go. Oh, and Justin, thank you very much for the super chat. I heard DC got a major flood from liberal tears. Well, first of all, good morning, Justin. My apologies for not saying hello to you sooner. And I don't think you're wrong, brother. Matter of fact, they think that Trump is rumored to be getting ready to do something about that flooding problem. Rumor has it that he's going to be moving whole departments of the federal government out of D.C. So My thought in the matter is, all right, there you go. Rhonda's here with us this morning. This is my aisle, but wine has to be non-alcoholic. Fair enough. I can respect that totally. Oh, goodness me. So thank you, WWG1, for that one. We do appreciate it. Now that we're post-election and there is a genuine effort to try to bring the country together. Seriously, there is. Joe Biden made a very conciliatory speech, a couple of days after the election. Kamala Harris obviously made her address at Howard University. And it now seems that Donald Trump is ready to get in on the effort to try to reach out to the other side. He is willing to extend his hand in friendship, and he's actually making an offer that actually I think is going to do a lot to help people that did not agree with him. I mean, honestly, when you reach forth your hand to the other side and you offer them a collective box of Kleenexes, I think this is the way Trump needs to go. This, to me, I mean, it seems helpful. It seems like it's something that's practical. I mean, this is almost like the best Christmas gift you could give liberals right now. A box of Kleenexes, a couple of boxes of Kleenexes, maybe like a case. I mean, it depends on how many tiers you're talking about. I mean, it's like Justin said, in Washington, D.C., the tiers are like leading to major flooding problems. Maybe this is the way we solve it. See, Trump hasn't even taken the oath of office yet, and he is already working stuff out. Who knew? Well, we did, but the other side, they had no idea how eminently practical Donald Trump could be. Good morning, Professor. Glad to have you in the house. Good to see you, sir. That's a Pedialyte, and this would be perfect. Jeez. Woo! Man, y'all are salty this morning already. Daggone. Woo! Adam says, the last time we... Yeah, I can see that. Oh, my goodness. All right, let's see what else we got in the way of the merry memes this morning. Oh, by the way, as you might expect, because Donald Trump is, a man that owns many different businesses and, is the CEO of the Trump organization and, the brand, as it were, he's got to make certain preparations now that he's about to assume the presidency again. Which means that he's having to send out notifications to various individuals inside his organization or in his sphere of influence to let them know that, he will no longer be able to do certain functions as it relates to either parts of his company or, sponsorships that he might be doing for other people. And it looks like he's even gone so far as to let the McDonald's Corporation know that, he's not going to be able to stack those fries anymore, guys. So, going to be it looks like this might have been a picture from his last shift. And he gave him his reason. Now I don't know if he did it in writing or not, but I'm assuming that, he was professional enough to go ahead and tell them why it is that he would not be back. But, you never know with the Donald. He's very unconventional in these matters. But he did have the good decency to let them know he's not going to be with them anymore. Zippy with a Rumble rant. Thank you, Zippy, very much. Zippy is always salty. Why is the rum all gone? Army arty. There be stiff in the booty. Very interesting. I'm not sure I want to know about your stiff booty. That's just might be a problem I don't need to get into. That's a question that a lot of people have been asking. A lot of people. We'll see. I mean, maybe someday we'll find out. Maybe on his deathbed, they let that information and make it public. They can finally make it public. TBA says, if the Donald has left McDonald's, then that means there's an opening for Harris. That's a good point. I mean, the woman's got to find something to do. I mean, what's she going to do for the next 2 years? Although, in all seriousness, there is a theory floating around. I'll just go ahead and pop it out there for you guys. It's not that I necessarily had it booted up for this morning, but there's a theory running amok that Kamala Harris goes back to California and runs for governor in 2 years. In other words, she pulls a Richard Nixon. Unlike Nixon, however, who lost in 1962, the way California is right now, there is a pretty good chance she could win. So, I mean, look, Gavin Newsom's term limited. He can't do anything else except run for president, which he wants to do. But some people are saying, yeah, she might go to California and run for governor. I mean, she's been attorney general out there. It's not like she doesn't know how to win a statewide race. So we'll see. We will see. Chris says, I've heard that OnlyFans could be her future. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, I mean, look, if this were Kamala 20 years ago, which, I mean, she's not a bad looking lady now, but I mean, the assets are not as lucrative as they once were, if I may put it that way, discreetly. WWG1 says she could put up her feet pics. Now that might get around her problem. Chris says, speaking of Newsom, what are we thinking about for 2028? Newsom versus Vance. Oh, Lord. Well, you know what? I'll go ahead and answer this question, or at least take a stab at it, since you asked me. I'm not so sure that Newsom's going to be the nominee in 2028 for the Democrats. I mean, I said all along that 2024 was a generational election, in that it's the end of one generation's run at the presidency and the beginning of another. So what am I getting at? Donald Trump and Joe Biden are the last of their generation, the last of the baby boomers. Okay. Now comes the Gen Xers and the millennials. But I don't know that Newsom is going to be the nominee. Because keep in mind, there are at least 3 other people that I know of right now that have very serious inclinations to want to get in. Shapiro out of Pennsylvania, Whitmer out of Michigan, and J.B. Pritzker out of Illinois. Now, each one of them inside the Democrat Party is extremely capable, very smart. I'm not so sure that I'd put all the money on Newsom yet. I'm really not. And Gypsy, you do bring up a good point. Somewhere down the line, this might happen. Now, if certain liberals had their way about it, it'd be right now, because there is a hue and cry out there. There's a hue and cry out there for Sotomayor, the current Associate Justice on the court, to retire right now so Joe Biden can nominate somebody and get somebody in to fill her seat so Donald Trump doesn't have the chance to fill it. Maybe Kamala goes to the Supreme Court. Who knows? Jardam, one of our favorite British fans. Hello, Jardam. Good Saturday morning. Well, no, actually, in your case, it'd be Saturday afternoon. You're what, 6 hours ahead? Yeah, late afternoon in Great Britain, actually. Well, welcome in, Jardam. We're glad to have you here. Greatly appreciated, and always glad to see British representation. Good morning, lovely. Mwah, you good-looking thing, you. It's possible. It's possible. TBA also says, and don't forget old booty jejeji. Yeah, booty juice, as you like to call him. Yeah, Pete Buttigieg has got a Jones to be president. So, but yeah, Whitmer's going to be out there, man. Jardam says, this is the only live stream I can get. Well, you know what, Jardam? I'm glad you're here. I truly am. But by the way, and I got to give a shout out to those boys. And I'm very sure, Jardam, you're familiar with the Lotus Eaters podcast, Carl Benjamin and all those boys. I tell you what, I don't get the chance to watch them all the time, but my gosh, are those guys good. I love watching them. They're just so smart, so funny. And Carl Benjamin has built himself one amazing organization. Just, they are, I tell you what, don't get me wrong, guys. I want you here as much as possible. But if you're really looking for a deep dive into British politics, I really recommend the Lotus Eaters podcast to you. Those guys are just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You know, if Vance were to secure the nomination, and I'm just saying it's a guys, let's get to January 20, okay? Let's get to January 20. But down the line, that could be a really interesting, possibly an interesting ticket. Exactly. Let's revel in the moment now. I mean, because there's a lot of work to be done. You know, I said this, and I'm very happy that Donald Trump won, but in one sense, I almost feel sorry for him in this respect. The job he's going to have to do as the chief executive of the federal government is going to be even harder this time than it was last time. Now the federal government is $35 trillion in debt. And let's be honest, some of that's his own doing. Okay? I'm not going to let him off the hook for it, but let's just be honest. That said, the federal government is $35 trillion in debt. You have a military that is seriously degraded in terms of its capabilities and its manpower. You have wars all over the world right now that we are actively stoking. So he's got a lot of work to do, and I do not envy the task ahead of him. But if there's anybody that's up to the job and try and do his best with it, it's Trump. It's Trump. TBA says, Brian, Trump is going to have such a good time ironing out all the wrinkles in government. Him and Musk will revel in the slashing the size of it. Your lips to God's ear, brother. Your lips to God's ear. That's one thing I'm genuinely looking forward to. If they actually do it, is to reduce the size and the scope and the power of the federal government. I will really, really love that. All right, what else do we have in the way of merry memes? One last one. For now, that is. As you all know, many celebrities in the music industry and in Hollywood made promises that they would leave America if Donald Trump were elected president. Well, granted, it takes a little bit of time to pack your bags, put your affairs in order, and all that sort of thing. However, you would think that, with the affluence that certain of these individuals have, that they would be able to hop on an airplane or drive in a car and go anywhere they want in the world. Well, apparently, ladies and gentlemen, some of these people are reneging on their word, and we have proof of the fact that they're backing out on their pledge to leave America if Donald Trump is elected. I mean, after all, the Canadian Royal Mounted Police, they watch the border like a hawk, and according to what they're saying, not a single sign of a celebrity yet. Pitiful. I mean, if these people are gonna give their word to do something, they ought to just go ahead and do it. I mean, really. You want to say you want to leave the U.S.? Who are we to stop you? There's the door. Don't let it hit you in the butt on the way out. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. That's time to thin out Martha's Vineyard to some of these people. My goodness. Anyway, yeah, the Canadians, not a one of them. No, and Mexico ain't seen anybody either, apparently. We're just saying. Oh, my goodness. All right. That is the merry memes. Hang on. Sorry about that. Got a little bit of a tickle in my throat. All right. That's the merry memes section of the show for now. Like I say, we don't necessarily have a whole lot this morning to go over. But, stuff that I think's, pretty thought-provoking anyway. And I want to start by going back to one of the memes that we did last night that sort of serves as, I guess, a jumping off point for the discussion we're going to have this morning. And it starts out with the question of the left, the Democrat Party, the progressive movement still trying to figure out why they lost. Or more, maybe it's better to say, the name of the game is blame. And everybody is pointing fingers at everybody, and nobody can quite figure this out. So with that, I want to take you back in time to one of the memes that we saw the other night on Chatting on the Porch. So with that, folks, please enjoy this once again.
Stop. Stop. See, that's why I'm recording, because the cops ain't gonna believe this shit.
Now, that's more or less the meltdown that everybody on the left has been going through in this country ever since Tuesday night. They just cannot believe it. And you can kind of understand part of that, okay? Do I agree with the reaction? Of course not. Be mature, grow up, be a grown-ass man, be a grown-ass woman, and act like you got some sense, as we say in my neck of the woods, okay? But that said, people are trying to figure out what happened. They're trying to understand why. I mean, here's Kamala Harris. You know, she's got all the right positions. She's got all the things ticked off, you know, on the list of things that make you a good little Democrat, good little progressive. You know, she's a female. She's black. She's black and Indian, no less. You know, she believes in the right position on abortion. She believes in the trans issue. She's all about the unions. I mean, every issue right down the line. The Democrats, you know, feel is where the country is at. And all of a sudden this, and on top of that, it's not for lack of money. Lord knows the woman had enough of it. She had a $1 billion war chest, right? So it wasn't lack of money. And on top of that, she had the media on her side. So she had the media, a $1 billion war chest. She was right on all the issues that should have energized the Democrat base. And yet, as it stands right now, she's got, I think the last tally I saw was just over 70 million votes. She's still trailing Donald Trump. And by the way, here's one of the sweetest forms of justice. Donald Trump, as of yesterday morning, surpassed his 2020 vote total. Let me say that again. Donald Trump, as of yesterday morning, surpassed his 2020 vote total, and they're still not done counting. Okay? Oh, good morning, Intello, and thank you. We appreciate that. Appreciate that greatly. Glad to have you here this morning. Yeah, we're just starting to roll into some things. So yeah, so she had, you know, all the issues, all the money. She had the media on her side, you know, everything. She had everything, every advantage. Why did she lose? Now, granted, there's going to be a lot of discussion around this for days to come. But as it stands right now, she's about 10 or 11 million votes short of what Joe Biden got in 2020. So what happened? Well, like I said, it's going to take a while before we totally know everything. But we know this much already. The media does not even want to try to begin to understand what happened. Now, you would think above anybody else, they would have the most incentive to try and figure this out because, you know, they are the people supposedly that report the news. It would sort of be incumbent upon them to figure out why it is Kamala lost. Well, come to find out, apparently they're not really all that interested. And if you don't believe me, listen to this exchange between Mark Halperin and Sean Spicer. This runs about a minute and a half, but this is extremely telling. So as always, folks, give me a sound check. Let me know if the sound's coming through on this, and check it out.
So it seems to me that the press is even less soul-searching, at least in public, than the Democrats. There's two issues to me, two main issues. One is they covered the race as if Kamala Harris was going to win and didn't didn't cover the issues that would have at least let their readers understand and their listeners and viewers that Trump might win. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, the economy is so bad. How could she possibly have won? Well, that really wasn't the dominant way the coverage went. And then the other is not acknowledging their failure to be fair to Donald Trump. Again, he deserves tough scrutiny. He's done a lot of horrible things, but the imbalance of the coverage was ridiculous. So, Sean, do you see any green shoots of recognition on the part of the media of their failure?
No, and in fact, it was funny because today I was looking at the lineup for the Sunday show roundtables, and it was like, did you guys know there was an election on Tuesday and Donald Trump won? Meet the Press has no one from Team Trump. They in fact have their reporter that was horribly anti-Trump, Garrett Haake. I was like, did you guys forget what happened? And they
probably tried for Trump people.
No, that's not true. I mean, I doubt it. I'll be honest with you, because I enough people.
They might not have.
Here's why I'll tell you this right now, just from experience. Enough people are going to want to audition, and they will go on any show, especially a Sunday show. So, let's be honest with you. But I was like, it blew my mind how tone deaf a show like Meet the Press is. It just, the idea that there is no, they don't want to even try.
Spicer's not wrong. Oh, I know. Halperin Halperin's probably one of the most plugged in people in Washington, D.C. He's still a lefty. Now, on balance, he can do pretty good reporting, but he's still a lefty. In his heart of hearts, he's still a lefty. The days of guys like Tim Russert are gone. I mean, and Russert was a lefty, an old Democrat's Democrat, but at least he could put his bias aside most of the time. Okay? Not anymore. So, yeah, I caught that too, but yeah. No, well, yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. But yeah, Spicer makes a fabulous point. If you folks in the press are wanting to try to figure out what happened, don't you think you ought at least book some people from the Trump campaign and talk to them? And Halpern made a fabulous point at the start of this thing. The press covered this race with the assumption Kamala was going to win. News coverage is literally impossible in our day. Yeah. You're unbiased. Yeah, that's a good point. Unbiased news coverage is literally impossible in our day and age. True. Oh, you know what, Jardom? Hang on a minute. I have got to find this. Real fast. Give me a second, folks. I had thought about this, but you know what? I should have pulled it up before we got started. But this clip, is going to absolutely. Let me find it here real fast. Tell me I've got it. Yeah, here it is. I got to pull this up. People have said for years that the mainstream media is absolutely insulated. They have no idea what's going on. So I'm not surprised in one sense that they didn't get it. They didn't see it coming, or maybe they didn't want to see it coming. But when you don't even know what's going on in the world as far as the cost of things, how in the world can I expect you to actually understand the feeling of people, even if you don't agree with them? You want a case in point, and Jardom, one of our great fans from over across the pond, brings up this fabulous point. Here is a clip from Morning Joe, and this thing's been circulating around social media, but man, this is so worth watching. Watch this.
Good. I want to talk about economy for a second. A few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, somebody who was going to be voting for Kamala Harris came up to me and said, "Oh my God, Trump's going to win." I go, "Why is that?" He goes, I went to the grocery store, butter's over $3. I kind of laughed and I said, "Well, that's kind of reductive, isn't it?" Said it to myself. To him, I smiled and I said, "Good point." But it actually,
It's $7.
everything we're hearing after the election is,
I'm just
it
saying,
is,
the $7.
what's that?
The $7.
What's that? Butter is $7?
Yeah.
What?
Some
Is
places.
it framed in gold?
Yeah, what kind of butter?
And-
You see what I mean? No idea. No comprehension. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say that, Joe Scarborough and his wife, Mika, they're probably pretty well off financially. Good for them. I'm happy for them. But that has the potential to make one very insulated from how other people feel. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people who are affluent and well off, and they recognize that these prices make no sense. Or I should say, these prices are very hard on people who do not have or share their level of affluence. But Joe Scarborough is just so out of it, he doesn't know. And I will bet you anything, if you talked to most journalists, either in New York City or DC or at major newspapers around the country, they have no clue. Either their affluence affords them the opportunity to not be hurt as much by high prices for butter, for eggs, for basic necessities of life that they don't even give it a second thought. They don't understand why people, like you or me or anybody else would be upset about the fact that, gasoline is over $3 or depending on where you are in the country, it could be as high as $7 or $8 in the country. They don't understand why we're upset about all of this. And then we want better than what we've got. And we think that this man might have some idea. This man, Donald Trump, might have some ideas that help get us there. They can't possibly understand why people would feel that way. Why? Because the shoe isn't pinching their foot, to use an old expression. Doesn't bother them at all. Caitlin Isaac, affluenza. Well, affluenza to you. Or achu. Or I sneeze. I don't know. But hello, Caitlin. We're glad to have you here with us. And on the Twitter side, no less. I see that marker beside your lovely face. Good morning. Yeah, the grocery bill is reductive. What does that even mean? Yes, crazy. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. They don't get it. They don't understand, which in part, when Donald Trump won on Tuesday, they're like, but why? Why? She was the perfect candidate. She checkmarked all the boxes. She had the money. She had Megan Thee Stallion twerking. She had Bruce Springsteen singing. I mean, how could she possibly lose? And they're so uncurious. They don't even bother to try and put somebody on their shows on Sunday morning. Those old dinosaur shows, by the way, or at least they're becoming that way, sadly. They don't even bother to try and talk to somebody from Trump world and figure it out. I would give a lot for them to invite Bricksuit or, name the social media influencer from Trump world. I really would. I'd love to see him do it, but they'll never will. I'd love to see him invite Aviva Fry. Or just name Charlie. Yeah, Charlie Kirk. Invite a Charlie Kirk on. Or a Jack Posobiec. Which, by the way, keep an eye on those guys going forward. Which most of you guys are already. But I'm telling you what, they are going to be something to see as the years go by. Zippy over on Rumble with a Rumble rant. Thank you very much for that. Post-liberalism is reductive. It reduces everything to deconstruction and dehumanization. Zippy, I wholeheartedly agree. Put me on Meet the Press. Woo! It would be a one-time appearance. Let me tell you, because the networks would be like, we are never inviting that SOB back on this network. No, he's dropping too many truth bombs. We don't want people hearing it. No, absolutely not. So the press is not curious, and the Kamala Harris campaign is definitely not ready for any kind of self-examination. I got a report here from CNN. This one's going to blow your mind. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I understand no losing campaign really wants to sit down and self-analyze. It's too painful, okay? It really is. But you've got to do it, because sooner or later you're going to work. These people, they're going to work on another campaign. Somebody's going to hire them on. And if you don't learn the lessons of why, at least now, you're going to make the same mistakes going forward. So with that, listen to this.
I am told that there was a Harris campaign staff call held yesterday evening, and that leaders on the call had one specific request that they wanted to make to the staff, and that was to avoid criticizing the campaign and its strategy to members of the media. Essentially, their message was, this doesn't really help the situation at all. This is how one source who was on the call described the gist of what top officials on the call said to staff. They said everyone was like, this sucks, losing sucks. There's something bigger that happened than the campaign, and everyone worked really hard and everyone's proud of them, and basically stop shitting on the campaign to the press. Now, I am also told that the senior campaign officials on this call promise the staff that they're going to do everything that they can to help them find jobs. Obviously, a very new reality for everyone on this campaign. Some of whom had very much hoped that if Harris were to win, they could be headed to Washington, D.C. to look for roles inside the White House throughout the administration. I'm also told that there was an acknowledgement on this call that Harris's loss had been sweeping. Now, you can imagine a lot of raw emotions right now coursing throughout the Democratic Party, including, as we have been reporting, a lot of anger that is being directed at President Biden as well.
So here we go. They don't even want people asking them, what did you do wrong? They don't even want to look at it. And again, part of that I understand. It hurts like hell. Some of these people had sunk a good year and a half into trying to get the Democrat nominee back across the finish line. Okay. Some of the staff were Biden people. Okay. Some of them were Harris people. Some of them were Democrat operatives in general. A lot of them were young. I will argue young and dumb, but they were young. Having been there myself, at least in one major campaign way back in the day, I understand how this feels. It hurts like hell. It is a gut punch. Some of these people are not going to be right. Or let me put it this way. They're not going to be in a good headspace for weeks. And there is no amount of booze or debauchery that's going to make it any better. They ain't no drinking away what happened. They ain't no whatever away what happened, okay? But they're not even willing to let the light of introspection be shined upon them. TBA says, Brian, these lefty MS mainstream mediators don't recognize they've done anything wrong. They haven't even admitted they have a problem. Step one in the AA program for healing. TBA, you're not, brother, I don't disagree with you. And that goes back to something that I said the other night. They don't have the intellectual honesty or the practical humility to look themselves in the mirror and say, what if I was wrong? What if I'm the one who is incorrect? What if the belief or beliefs that I hold are wrong? They can't bring themselves to do it. Their delusion and their arrogance is such that it won't let them. These people are going to have to hit rock bottom before they come to that realization. It is like and I hate to use this analogy, but it's not too far off from the truth. These people are like drug addicts or alcoholics. They have got to hit bottom. They've got to wake up one morning in the pig pen, mud covered all over them, sleeping beside the pig, smelling or so wretched they can't even stand themselves, before they realize, I got a problem and I got to do something. Yeah, good way to put it, Adam. Zero self-awareness and unwarranted entitlement. And yeah, undoing that kind of brainwashing is going to be there are a handful of, I shouldn't say handful, there are a lot of people who come out of it. Carrie Smith is a great example. Sasha Stone is a great example. Brandon Straka is another example. Gothics. I mean, you all could list names of people I'm not even aware of who used to be on the left, and they've come to realize this is crazy. This is nuts. This doesn't even begin to make sense. Chris from My Morning Mayhem says someone on their side was saying the other day they didn't go woke enough and go extreme enough, and they need to double down all that next. Yeah, I saw that clip. I know the clip you're talking about, and just okay. You know, if you folks out there on the left and who are working for the Democrat Party, if you don't think you went woke enough, or you didn't go extreme enough, go ahead, keep on doing it. Keep on doing it and watch what happens. Yeah. For example, our good friend here, Caitlin. I used to be on the left. Now I'm a full-blown conservative. Honey, glad to have you on this side of the aisle. Don't get me wrong. Glad to have you even if you were a liberal. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Here's another one. Brett Weinstein and Heather Heying. I mean, the list goes on and on of individuals who realize this is nuts. This wokey leftist BS is crazy. I don't want to, this is nuts. This makes no sense, intellectually or otherwise. And they're like, it's time to stop this. Yeah, but no, the Harris campaign won't even do it yet. And like I said, the blame game is going around. You notice at the tail end of that clip that I just played, they're blaming Joe Biden already. I got something here from the New York Times, and this is posted by a young lady named Selena Wang, who is a senior White House correspondent for ABC News. Check this out. Nancy Pelosi spoke to the New York Times and said the following, quote, had the president gotten out sooner, there may have been other candidates in the race. The anticipation was that if the president were to step aside, there would be an open primary. And as I say, Kamala may have. I think she would have done well in that and been stronger going forward. But we don't know that. That didn't happen. We live with what happened. And because the president endorsed Kamala Harris immediately, that made it almost impossible to have a primary after that. If it had been much earlier, it would have been different. No. Hang on, Nancy. Hang on. You're not getting off the hook for this one. Number one, you had a hand in pushing Joe Biden out. Okay? Let's just call a spade here. Nancy Pelosi, you had a hand in pushing him out. So don't sit there with your white glove analysis like you're totally innocent in this whole thing. You're not. Okay? But your point's valid. You could have had a primary. And by the way, you still could have had one. You still could have had one if the Democrat leadership at the convention would have pushed it. However, you do have a certain valid point. Joe endorses Kamala. Kamala calls the delegates. The delegates pledge themselves to Kamala. There's no chance for a primary. So, there is some truth here, but watch what they're doing. Joe Biden's at fault. Joe Biden's to blame. He's why she lost. If he'd have got out in January of 2024, we could have had an open primary, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. But see, there's a certain twisted irony in all that. Hey, you lefties out there, you Democrats especially, you kept telling everybody in America there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden. He'd give a speech somewhere. He'd be traveling overseas. Whatever. Everybody could see it. Everybody knew something was wrong with Joe Biden. As a matter of fact, I still go back to that conversation between F. Chuck Todd of NBC News and Jonathan Martin of Politico. They were on F. Chuck Todd's podcast, and they both said to a man, they said, it's the worst kept secret in Washington, D.C. that Joe Biden had cognitive decline. We, the American people, knew it, but you guys never wanted to admit it, so you kept it all hush-hush. You kept it buttoned down. You kept it under wraps as much as you could, excluding for when Joe Biden spoke or went out in public, but you tried to convince, especially the members of your own party, you tried to convince everybody there's nothing wrong with Joe. Joe's fine. Joe can do another term. There's nothing wrong with him. And then when he goes out on the debate stage in June of 2024 with Donald Trump and it blows up, then and only then are you like, oh man, we got to do something about this. This is terrible. We're going to lose more electoral votes than we ever had in our lives. And now that the deed is done, that Kamala has lost, I love those words, Kamala has lost. Or maybe the better version, Trump has won. Oh, that sounds even better on my ears. Say that again. Trump has won. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I feel a thrill going up my left thigh. Woo, baby. All right, sorry. But you get my point. The deed is done. And now you got to blame somebody. And who are you going to get? Hey, let's blame the guy going out the door. Talk about kicking somebody when they're down. Amazing. Just amazing. Then the press won't look at itself. Then they're blaming the Harris campaign won't look at itself. Nancy Pelosi's blaming Biden, along with a lot of people in the D.C. establishment. And then they're also blaming the voters. I've got a piece here from James Pearson at the New Criterion. This is pretty good. This came out yesterday, actually, but this is really good. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and drop this in chat right now. Give me 1 second. I will drop this on the Rumble side, and I will drop this on the YouTube side. So take a look at this if you wish, but this is pretty good. Headline, Democrats and Never Trumpers blame the voters, by James Pearson. When a political party loses an election, its supporters typically respond in one of two ways. There is, first, a constructive response. Let's figure out what went wrong and try to fix it so the next time around we can win back the voters we lost in this election. There is an alternative response, that is, to blame the voters for letting us down and for lacking the good sense to elect our team. That is a childish response, thoroughly unhelpful, and is one that many celebrity and journalistic wings of the Democrat Party have now embraced. And before I go any further, Jardin, thank you for the £2 I genuinely appreciate it. Where's the TikToks of people celebrating? LOL. There are few and far, but well, they're out there. They're out there, but a little harder to find. Right now, it's kind of easy to find all the shall we say, cracked Democrat supporters of Kamala Harris. Anyway, moving on. For the celebrity wing of the Democrat Party, journalists at the New York Times, and those who pay attention to them, we are wise, virtuous, and compassionate. The voters are dumb, uninformed, and racist. For the Never Trumpers, their message is, this is 1933, Hitler is on the ballot, and we are Winston Churchill. Do these folks seem a bit unhinged, much too convinced of their own importance, and disassociated from the world in which most of their voters live? The question answers itself. Here are some examples of these reactions. Susan Glazer, a writer for The New Yorker, quote, if Trump's election is a disastrous revelation, it is a disastrous revelation of what the United States really is, as opposed to the country that so many hoped that it could be. John Harwood, a journalist, quote, if you're accustomed, as I am, to believing that a critical mass of Americans embraces the values of freedom, pluralism, and common sense, the voter's choice defies comprehension. Jill Filipovic, feminist author and columnist. In the coming days, there's going to be a lot of opining about what the Harris campaign did wrong. But this election is not an indictment of Kamala Harris. It is an indictment of America. Peter Weiner, a fellow at Trinity Forum, this election was a CAT scan on the American people, and as difficult as to say, as hard as it is to put it to name, what it revealed, at least in part, is a frightening affinity for a man of borderless corruption. Donald Trump is no longer an aberration. He is normative. George Conway, America did this to itself, and now we all must suffer. Jonathan Last of The Bulwark. Joe Biden was given the choice of betting liberal democracy on structures and levers of power or the innate goodness of the American people. He put his entire chip stack on the American people and lost. And on and on and on it goes with this. I really recommend you share this around to lefty friends of yours and ask them this question. Do you now begin to understand why it is that other people don't really like your side politically? I mean, look, it's one thing not to like the policies of the left, but when the left or the policies of the right, let me flip that around. It's one thing not to like the policies of the right or people you disagree with. It's another thing when you attack them for being different than you. To a man and woman that's quoted in this article from the New Criterion, they think the American people have to be the biggest bunch of dumb hayseeds that were ever collected together on God's earth. How in the world could they possibly vote for Donald Trump, a man of imminent corruption, a man who's a fascist, who's a Nazi, he's worse than Hitler. He's going to deport, he's going to use the power of the federal government to go after his political enemies. He'll weaponize the Justice Department, blah, 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 blah. And you, the American people, you're going to help him do it. You put him back in. How could you be so stupid? My response to that is, how could you be so stupid as to think that, number one, those things that you claim Donald Trump is going to do aren't already being done to Donald Trump and the rest of the American people? And number two, if he's really such the great evil that you thought he was, how come you guys lost the election? How come you couldn't marshal the majority of the American people, or at minimum the 81 million people that voted for Joe Biden? How come you can't marshal them together to put her into office, to stop this evil, fascist, tyrannical man named Donald Trump? I'm not the smartest political person in the world, but even I've got the common sense to know that insulting half of the country and telling them that they're dumb is not a really good way to get them to vote for your guy or gal, as the case may be. And the thing is, the left has been doing this for years. Now they're just getting more and more blatant about it. Yeah, great example, Jarnam. This person, I'm going to wake up a slave tomorrow. Oh, come on. But they're brainwashed enough to believe it. And it's going to take years of working that out of their system before they realize, I was wrong. But they have not hit bottom enough yet to be able to realize where and who they are. So they're blaming, the press won't even examine its own motives or ideas. The Harris campaign won't let the light be shined on them. We're blaming Joe Biden. we're blaming the voters, and now we're blaming the couch. And I'll get to that in a minute. Chris over on Rumble says, telling half the country they're dumb is what politicians have been doing, filmmakers have been doing, actors have been doing, musicians have been doing, and they cry when their numbers go down. Yeah, it's like they can't put it together that insulting people is driving away the people they're trying to attract to make their coalition bigger. Donald Trump, to his credit, and again, the numbers are still flowing in. We don't totally know yet. But, hang on a minute, though. That said, I have got to play this one clip for you guys. This is just amazing. Let me find it here. Hang on. Because this is just way too good. Way too good. Yeah, here it is. You want to know how dominant Donald Trump was? I mean, this to me is just staggering. Just staggering. I mean, Chris makes the point, politicians, filmmakers, actors, musicians have all been telling the American people they're dumb. Well, you want to know what the dumb people of America did? They went and voted for Donald Trump. You want to know how dominant was their support of Donald Trump? You got to listen to this. It's almost 3 minutes, and I apologize for its length. But if you want to know the depth and the breadth of how broad the coalition was that voted for Donald Trump, listen to this.
Holy Toledo. All right. Trump gained ground in 49 states and the District of Columbia compared to 2020. I went back through the record books. When was the last time a party gained in so many different places? You have to go all the way back to 1992 when Bill Clinton improved upon Michael Dukakis's performance in 49 states, plus the District of Columbia. The bottom line is no matter where you looked on the map, Kate Baldwin, no matter where you looked, Donald Trump was improving on where he did 4 years ago, except for Washington State. It is no wonder that at this particular point, he looks like he's going to be the first Republican to win the popular vote since George W. Bush back in 2004.
And to pull that off, he gained ground with groups that Republicans do not generally count as part of their winning coalition, or really at all. How much ground did he gain?
Yeah.
Okay, before we get to that, I gotta say something here. He gained ground with people who aren't normally part of their winning coalition. That's true. Insulting, but it is true. Anyway, with that, back to the clip.
Again, holy Toledo. It's just like, oh my goodness gracious. These are the types of groups that you would never have thought that Donald Trump would have gained so much support among 8 years ago when he first won against Hillary Clinton. Trump's was the best GOP showing among 18 to 29-year-olds in 20 years. You have to go all the way back to 2004. How about among black voters? It was the best performance for a Republican candidate for president in 48 years since Gerald Ford back in 1976. And among Hispanic voters, the exit polls only go back since 1972. But Donald Trump's performance on Tuesday was the best for a Republican presidential candidate in exit poll history. He literally goes all the way back through history and breaks history. This is what we're talking about, Kate Baldwin. Groups that you never thought that Donald Trump would do well among, even for a Republican candidate, that is what he did. If the 2016 election was about Donald Trump breaking through with white working class voters, this election was about breaking through and going to that Democratic coalition and tearing it apart.
And it wasn't just this what he did for his own support. It trickled down to helping the Senate and helping in the House.
Yeah. So, a lot of talk this morning and this week, as you know, the GOP is going to have a Senate majority. We don't know if
Sorry about that. Think about what Harry Enton at CNN just said. Trump gained with younger voters ages 18 to 29. He hadn't done that. He hadn't done that since 2004. With black voters, Donald Trump had his best performance since Gerald Ford in 1976. With Hispanic voters, Donald Trump, the GOP nominee, performed better than anybody since Richard Nixon in 1972. That's how dominant across the board this was. Zippy over on Rumble says it's almost like Trump beat an 80s liberal. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's very similar. Very similar. Just like I said, just absolutely incredible. But the media are blaming the voters. Well, here's another example of it, just to give you an idea. Well, and this is a good point. Calling 18 to 29-year-olds stupid is not exactly a good way to get them to. God, she was such a flawed candidate. She really was. Listen to this exchange on CNN.
One of the things that we heard from Democrats was, are they going to go out and vote for her? Or are they going to stay home and choose the couch?
Right.
And the Democratic vote totals were down.
Yeah.
The couch won in a lot of places.
Or made advances.
No, Dana. The couch didn't win. The American voters did. See, you can't lay this on a Democrat laziness. Okay? You really can't. One statistic that I'm dying to see when all the numbers get crunched, I want to see the crossover vote of registered Democrats who voted for Trump versus Republicans who voted for Kamala Harris. TBA over on Rumble says the overall Dem message to everyone was, you're stupid unless you vote for us. Yeah, that's a winning strategy. Sarcasm. Yeah, exactly. WWG1 says, I would vote for the couch over Kamala. Well, many people voted for Kamala being on the couch, but yeah, exactly. They're blaming the couch. It just boggles the mind. They can't fathom the concept that given the choice between Donald Trump, who had 4 years as a president, and Kamala Harris, who had 4 years as a vice president in an administration that's current, they can't fathom the possibility that voters looked at the two of them and went, I'm better off under Trump. African American men said they're better off under Trump. Hispanics said they're better off under Trump. 18 to 29-year-olds said they're better off under Trump. Don't lay this onto a lack of Democrat enthusiasm, Dana Bash of CNN. I'm sorry, that doesn't even come close to answering it. Were there people who just decide not to vote? Sure. I don't dispute that at all. But the argument that says that the couch won is just, it's dismissively arrogant. It is, again, it's proof that you guys in the mainstream media do not understand the American people. You don't get it. You don't understand. 4 years of Joe Biden inflicting economic pain on people. In some cases, getting them killed. And you're again, it's proof of what everybody's known for years. You guys are out of touch and you don't even try to understand. You don't. You really don't. Oh, you pretend that you do. You don't. You guys have heard me mention the name Selena Zito, legendary writer for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. She writes for the Washington Examiner, among other places. You want to know one of the biggest reasons why I love that woman, to read her columns so much? She's always traveling. Now, you could say that's true of almost any journalist, but she travels for a specific reason. She wants to talk to people. She leaves her assumptions behind and she goes out and she talks to the voters. In Pennsylvania or West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Missouri, it doesn't matter where. She's traveling all the time. In small towns and little coffee shops and everything. Just unbelievable. And that's why Selena Zito is one of the best journalists out there. She's talking to people. She's trying to, and she writes regularly. It's not like Selena Zito doesn't write on a regular basis. She's telling people this is what the voters are saying that I'm talking to. Does she get invited on CNN? Does she get invited on MSNBC? Does she get invited on any of these liberal networks? No. Now, don't get me wrong. The right can be its own echo chamber. I'm not disputing that at all. But the argument that says that these people in the mainstream media are really honestly trying to figure this out, nope, absolutely not. Blaming the couch means they don't have to reevaluate the questionable voting issues. Now Dems are thinking that this election was rigged because of the turnout discrepancy. So close, yet so far from the point. Amen to that, Miss Caitlin. Amen to that. America began feeling the effect of the Biden economy. Yep. Exactly. Who knows? Oh, yeah. Another Cheryl Atkinson, fabulous journalist. Absolutely fabulous. Catherine Herridge is another good one. John Solomon's another good one. There's a whole bunch of people out there that ought to be listened to by these mainstream media types. They'll never touch them. They will never touch them because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. It is absolutely incredible. Oh, and this one's just too funny. Nicole Wallace of MSNBC. Okay. She had on a Nobel Prize winner named Maria Ressa and was having a discussion with her. That's the setup. But you've got to hear this. Okay. Listen to what Nicole Wallace says at the beginning of this discussion.
I have this sort of insatiable interest in every bit of wisdom you can impart. And as a journalist, I hear you about girding ourselves for this moment. As a human, I deleted Twitter today as an act of self-preservation. And because I was no longer able to find the things I was interested in and was seeing a lot of things that I'm not.
Did you hear that? I deleted Twitter today as an act of self-preservation. Because I couldn't find the things on it anymore that I was interested in, and I was finding things I wasn't. Nicole, I got a piece of advice for you. Resubscribe to Twitter and reactivate your account, because you're supposed to be a journalist. Okay, I remember the time when you were a political operative for the Republicans, but okay, we won't mention that. But you're supposed to now be in the journalistic business, right? Well, don't you think that it's incumbent upon you to find out what people are saying on Twitter? Because I've got a section of Front Porch Brunch here in a little bit that's going to talk about the change in media. But it's absolutely pearl clutching. Jardom, you're absolutely right, brother. You're absolutely right. And yes, we love us some Megan Fox. That is a bulldog with really sexy teeth. You have no interest in finding out what people are saying. Twitter right now, and I don't think it's too much of an exaggeration to say this, Twitter right now is the most powerful news medium in the world. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still got its, stuff to work out. But Elon from where it was to where it is now, it's come a long way, baby. Okay? Because people can actually go out there and have a conversation. If they find something interesting, they post it. Some people are just great at it. Millions of Twitter followers. God love them. You can be on the left. You can be on the right. You can say what you think. You can agree to disagree. You can disagree agreeably. You're going to disagree with real disagreement. But you can actually have an honest conversation. You know, I mean, someone described it as the Wild West of news and information. Fine. I've said all along, let's have at it. Give us a platform where people can lay out facts and information, and let's debate it. Let's talk about it. Someone wants to question the validity of the 2020 election, and they think they got the evidence to prove that, you know, Joe Biden was fraudulently put into the White House. Okay, put it out there. But instead of trying to find out what people are thinking, Nicole Wallace and folks like her, and I'll bet you she's not the only one, by the way, they are deleting their Twitter accounts for self-preservation because they can't find the things they're interested in, and the things they are finding, they don't want to look at. Unbelievable. I mean, talk about evidence of a hive mind. That would be it to me. You are so self-assured of your ideas and the rightness thereof, you will not let anyone challenge them, even if it's in a 200-character tweet or somewhere else. You will not be willing to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what if I am wrong? And it's going to, intellectually and practically, it's going to kill you. It will. It will stunt your relationships. It will stunt your growth as a... Look, I don't mean to get psychological here, but let's just be honest about it. You get that isolated in your ideas and your beliefs and so walled off from other people, you will stunt your growth intellectually, socially. You really will. You will make it worse for yourself. And I got news for you folks in the mainstream media. Those of us on the right are not evil, contrary to what you think. But just because we disagree with you, there's something wrong with us, not the other way around. At least not in your mind anyway. And how bad is it? Oh, this next clip. How bad are these people in the media taking it that Donald Trump won? This is from The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. He had John Dickinson of CBS News on. You have got to see this. Watch.
How would you explain that to a 14-year-old today? How would you explain this election?
I'll try not to think about my boys because
Yes.
He's about to cry. I'm gonna start that over. Watch this very carefully. This man is a journalist, or that's what he claims to be anyway, right? This guy is a journalist. Honest to God, he is about to break down in tears at the idea that he has to explain to his sons that Donald Trump won. Watch this again. This will blow your mind. Here it comes.
How would you explain that to a 14-year-old today? How would you explain this election?
I'll try not to think about my boys because
Yes.
Look at that. He is about to break down in tears. He is about to cry. He's trying to hold back tears on national television on a late night talk show. He can't bring himself to understand how Donald Trump could have possibly gotten reelected. Unbelievable with these people. Unbelievable. It just boggles the mind with me. It really does. Now, there is one piece of good news. And I don't have the article pulled up here, but there are some old timers around the Democrat Party. Guys like Mark Penn, James Carville, Dave Axelrod, although Axelrod's probably on the young end of the old timers, but you get my point. Okay. They're trying to tell their fellow Democrats, you guys made yourself elitist and snobby. And you're not going to win again until you start reaching out to the average voter. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree with you. I agree. You're not wrong, Caitlin. You're not wrong at all. But yeah, this is where we are with the media right now. These people are just that. They are, yeah, well, yeah, probably. Good way of putting it. Or from across the pond. Yeah. This is where they are. The finger pointing, the blame, and the sad part about it is they will never. There's an old verse in the Bible, and with this I'll wrap it up, this segment. And it's written by St. Paul. And it goes like this: forever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. My dad had an expression. He said there are a lot of smart, stupid people in the world. Or stretch that out a little bit. There are a lot of people in this world who are very smart and at the same time stupid. These people in the media, some of them are smart. They're still stupid. Some of them aren't particularly smart and they're stupid. That's even worse. The other way of expressing it is all book learning and no common sense. They can tell you everything about the intricacies of a particular subject and have no idea of how to apply common sense to resolve a situation. Yep. Book learning versus common sense. Or horse sense, as we used to say in the country. Or to borrow another old country expression, ain't got the good sense to pour piss out of a boot. Forever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. They're so smart, so self-deluded, and they'll never, until they hit rock bottom, politically or intellectually, they're never going to start asking the question, what if I'm wrong? And they'll go around in a rage, and they'll blame everybody else, and they'll never look in the mirror and say, I was wrong. It's kind of sad in one sense. All right. Let us prepare to go to another compartment of the train, as it were. And before we do, let me do a real quick commercial. My name is Brian Tripp, and I'm the Front Porch Conservative. And if you have found your way to this live stream, you have, like our good friend Caitlin from over on Twitter, you have found your way to Front Porch Brunch. This is a live stream I do on the weekends on my channels, and I have channels on YouTube and on Rumble. So please, if you're not a subscriber to my channel, go ahead and give me a sub. I'd really appreciate it. By last count this morning, I am up to 969 subscribers on YouTube. I'm getting real close to 1,000. Real close. I would love before the end of this year to hit that number. It would be quite the triumph, personally. It's not a big number, I guess, in terms of some social media people, but for purposes of this little channel, it would be quite the milestone. So if you have friends that you think would enjoy this kind of commentary, do me a favor and ask them to subscribe. And by the way, subscribe on Rumble and YouTube. I'd like to see both platforms grow. And while you're at it, give a thumbs up, leave a comment in chat, share the link around. Go crazy, as the legendary Jack Buck used to say. Go crazy. All right, let us shift gears. Enough with the liberal tears. Let's start looking ahead to Trump 2.0. And there's good news, some concerning news, and some things that need to be jumped on right now. As far as good news is concerned, there are some personnel decisions that have been made so far that a lot of people are like, all right, I like it. For example, Susie Wiles has been named chief of staff. Okay, gotta keep an eye on her, but all right, I get it. She ran a very disciplined campaign for Donald Trump. Apparently, she's going to be running the White House for Donald Trump. Cool. Well, we've also gotten word that one of Trump's old wingmen from the first administration is coming back. According to reports from the Financial Times of London, Robert Lighthizer has been asked to run U.S. trade policy on behalf of a second Trump administration. Now, for those of y'all that may not be that familiar with him, Lighthizer, along with Peter Navarro, were two of Trump's best lieutenants in terms of getting trade deals done on behalf of the U.S. and trying to benefit the American workers. So the fact that, Bob Lighthizer is coming back, if this report is true, let's put it that way, if this report is true and Trump's reached out to Lighthizer, that's a pretty good sign. I'm happy about that. Now, also by way of speculation on who's going to be in the administration, and this wouldn't be a good idea. Donald Trump, according to reports, is considering picking North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum as his new energy czar to slash environmental regs and boost fossil fuel production. And my response to that is, yeah, baby, come on, let's do it. I think Burgum is for my part, I think Burgum is a very effective lieutenant. Very smart, especially coming from North Dakota. He's very big into the energy industry. Yeah, I'd like to see this. This is a good move. This is a very good move. Now, that's the good news. There is some bad news, and this is something that needs to be jumped on right now. And I've got an article here from the Association of Mature Citizens, AMAC for short. And it has to do with the upcoming race for the new Senate Majority Leader going into 2024. And we'll see about this, but this one kind of worries me, and I'm not going to lie. So with that, let's check out this article, and it's written by who wrote this? Do we have a byline on it? Hang on. Aaron Flanagan. Okay. And this one is a bit worrisome. Good morning, Midmo. Glad to have you with us. This one is a bit concerning. All eyes turn to Senate GOP leadership race. This was posted on Thursday, the 7th of November. Following Donald Trump's historic victory on Tuesday night that brought with it a GOP Senate majority, another upcoming election has taken on an added degree of importance, the race to replace Mitch McConnell as the Senate leader for the future. McConnell announced earlier this year that he would step down as leader after 17 years atop the Senate Republican caucus, setting up a secret ballot election on November 13th to replace him. Whoever takes on the role will be in a prime position to become Senate Majority Leader next January and play a critical role in working with Trump to enact key parts of his agenda, including tax cuts and securing the border. 3 names have emerged as the most likely candidates for the post: John Thune of South Dakota, John Cornyn of Texas, and Rick Scott of Florida. While Thune and Cornyn entered the race almost immediately following McConnell's retirement announcement in February, Scott entered the arena in late May, sending a lightning rod into what was otherwise seen as an unexciting contest. Thune, a 4-term senator and current Senate Republican whip, enjoys a close relationship with a number of old guard Republicans and has called the leadership race a chance for a reset. Cornyn, meanwhile, is an expert political operator. As the 4th longest tenured Republican, he has also developed a reputation as a prolific fundraiser, something which could go far with his Senate colleagues. For much of the race, Scott, who just cruised to a 13-point re-election victory, has been considered a slight favorite due in large part to his ties to Trump. Scott, ABC News reported, is a longtime friend of Trump's and has positioned himself as a strong ally. Scott traveled to New York to support Trump during Trump's hush money trial, and Trump could endorse Scott in the contest, potentially winning many more votes for the Florida senator or giving him leverage to influence the race. Thus far, Scott has received support from a handful of key conservative leaders, including former presidential candidate and top Trump surrogate Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, let's talk about this for a few minutes. I realize that Donald Trump has just gone through a very grueling presidential election. For almost 2 months straight, that man didn't stop, didn't take a day off, was doing 2 or 3 events a day. So, I mean, I get it. The poor man needs to recharge his batteries, okay? But if I could give any advice to Trump world right now, okay, somebody needs to get to the president-elect and talk to him about this, okay? Here's the worry that I have and the worry that a lot of other people have going forward when it comes to Trump's legislative agenda, or maybe it's better to say one of the worries, okay? Let's remember, Mitch McConnell, with the exception of judicial nominees, didn't do a whole lot to help Trump out. You could probably make an argument that he slow-walked his agenda, and furthermore, made sure that Trump allies who were running for Senate seats around the country made it a point that made sure they got no money for their campaigns. Carrie Lake is a great example of that. She got not one thin dime in help from McConnell. Now, let's be honest. Trump needs somebody in the Senate he can work with. John Thune and John Cornyn are not it. They are old school establishment Republican. Furthermore, they're both McConnell lieutenants. Okay? Anytime Mitch McConnell went to the microphone, there's John Cornyn, there's John Thune. Now, granted, they're part of the leadership on the Republican caucus side. But putting either one of them in as majority leader is not going to help Trump. You basically get Mitch McConnell light. I really recommend to somebody that's got access to the president-elect's ear, he needs to jump into this thing with both feet and basically endorse Rick Scott. Now, do I think Rick Scott is perfect? No. But then again, Jesus ain't going to be running the Senate Republican caucus. I ain't looking for perfect. I'm looking for somebody who wants to work with Trump. Okay? Now, and Minmo, you're probably right. TBA over on Rumble says, I'm pretty sure Trump has a solid grasp of who will work best as a majority leader. Okay, I grant you that. Okay. TBA also says, people writing these articles about who they think should be majority leader are misleading the public again. Okay, maybe, but I'm worried about this. Trump's going to have a very limited amount of time to get his agenda through. Okay. I just worry that Thune or Cornyn is not gonna be helpful. I just don't see how putting in one of two different Mitch McConnell lieutenants is going to help the Trump agenda. You've got a majority. Let's use it. Well, maybe I am fussing about this, but I don't think it's unjustified fussing. And TBA, we can agree to disagree on this. I'm just saying, I really think Trump needs to weigh in on this thing. As a matter of fact, hang on a second, I got to find this. To give you an idea of how worried some people are about Trump getting into this thing. Let me find it here real fast. Hang on. Give me a second, folks. Hopefully I can get my hands on this quick. Should be able to. Hang on a minute. I'm looking for something. Apologize, folks. I'm looking for something real. Just about got it. Hang on. Here it is. Here it is. I just found it. John Thune.
Is President-elect Trump...
John Thune was appearing on Squawk Box on CNBC the other morning. And check this out.
Is President-elect Trump involved in, does he have a chosen preference in the Senate? Do you know, Senator? And will that come into play?
I don't know that he does. I'm staying in regular contact with him and with his team. And, obviously, if he wants to, he could exert a considerable amount of influence on that. But honestly, I think my preference would be, and I think it's probably in his best interest, to stay out of that. These Senate secret ballot elections are probably best left to senators, and he's got to work with all of us when it's all said and done. But
yeah, well, I'm sorry. And I said this on Twitter the other day. Donald Trump has a right to weigh in on anything that has the potential to negatively affect his legislative agenda. And this race for the Senate Majority Leader, it's got the potential. TBA says Trump should put Thune or Cornyn as an ambassador, then fire them so they lose their congressional seats. Interesting. It's an interesting way of getting rid of somebody politically. I think Rick Scott is better as a senator than as a governor, but Ron DeSantis is a better governor. Florida is in decent shape regardless. Fair enough. Why must the ballot be secret? F that. Well, rules of the caucus. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but okay. Well, in one sense, I can kind of understand. If you don't know who voted for who, then nobody has to get PO'd at each other when they got to work together. I was like, well, you voted for that guy, huh? Well, so I can kind of understand that one. But look, I'm just going to give you my take on it. I think Trump needs to weigh in on this thing, and y'all know where I stand on it. Now, there are some other concerning things. Let me find it here real fast. I haven't got anything specific pulled up, but there's some word afoot. And this goes to a question that TBA asked. Do you think that Trump will be fooled twice? In my heart of hearts, I don't think so. Not having gone through everything that man has gone through to get back here. Not having seen who said a lot of things they never should have. Not finding out that he's found out who his friends are. Or more to the point, he should have, TBA. So do I think Trump's going to be fooled twice? No. Is there the potential that some of these establishment folks get into certain positions? Yeah. Which kind of gets me to the other bad piece of news I'm hearing floated. And again, this might just be people floating names. Who knows? But the name Mike Pompeo keeps coming up. And I'm like, oh, God, no, not Pompeo. Pompeo's name's being floated around for different things. Mark Rubio's name's being floated around. And I don't necessarily dislike Mark Rubio. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. Just little too neocon for my taste. Pompeo, I definitely don't want back in. For any number of different reasons. So hopefully those are just names being floated and nothing else. So, all right. But there are some other good pieces of news, and these are indications of things that are happening on the horizon. Oh, yeah. A very sick joke, my dear. A very sick joke. But apparently, piece of good news, the president of the European Union says they want to start buying oil from the United States and not Russia. Trump wins the election, the world falls in line. Quote, we still get a lot of liquefied natural gas from Russia, and why not replace it with American liquid natural gas, which is cheaper for us and brings down energy prices, says Ursula von der Leyen. But it's something where we can get into a discussion also what our trade deficit is concerned. Well, okay. You want to buy it? Come on, we'll make you a deal. We got a guy in the White House who can do that now. Let's see. What other pieces of little side news are going on? Now, this one, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but Donald Trump posted this the other day on social media. And this has to do with his ideas about how to make free speech better. And if he even does the half of some of this stuff, I'm going to be happy. So with that, I'll play a little bit of it. Check this out.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple. Just like dominoes, one by one, they'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately. And here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis or disinformation. And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second, I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible, and to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship. Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination.
I won't play the rest of it. I put the link in both sides on chat. But if he gets even part of that done, that's going to be a good thing. And Midmo says, I can tell you how the government and the media quit lying to you. Repeal the money. Yep. Wholeheartedly. Zippy with a rumble rant. The DMCA needs to end. It kills fair use. Oh, there's going to be a lot of ideas how to do it, but some of that stuff's great. And again, the link is in both sides on YouTube and Rumble, and you guys can check out that whole clip for yourself if you have not seen it yet. TBA says Trump should make J.D. Vance the Senate Majority Leader, which is something he can do, as John Adams filled that role over 200 years ago. Interesting idea. Interesting idea indeed. Okay. Worth a consideration. TBL says, yeah, repeal the 2015 Smith-Mundt Act. All right. Sounds like a good idea to me. But yeah, these are some of the things that are potentially coming up in a future Trump administration. And yeah, I am very excited to see where it goes. I really am. Truly, truly. All right. Where are we at here? Okay. About ready to shift to another compartment of the train. And this one has to do with new media. And it's kind of funny because if ever there was an election that proved how the dynamic is changing in terms of how we acquire and share information, this is it. You know, every so often you'll hear me use the term gatekeeper media to describe ABC, CBS, NBC, Post, the Times, etc. And I call them gatekeeper because truly they up to now have been the gatekeepers of information. If they want you to know something, you'll find out. If they don't want you to know, you won't find out. And they have had almost monopolistic power. Notice I say almost. Again, there's a lot of things about Twitter that need to be worked on, and that will happen over time. Okay? But between Twitter and the rise of podcasters, live streamers, etc., the 2024 election proved that there is now an undeniable and unstoppable shift that is happening in terms of how people obtain information, share information, and consume information. And just to give an example of what the old mainstream media or the gatekeeper media used to be like, I got a video here. It's rather comical. Check this out.
This could all just go away. Everything. He just wants to enslave us.
They would like to overturn voting rights. They would like to overturn gay rights. They would say, I'm in the process of overturning women's rights.
They'll take away our rights. He just wants to take away our rights. Everything. Like, if he's reelected, say goodbye to everything you love. Ugh, we need Kamala. She'll save us. And, you know, she's a woman. I like that.
Say it with me. Kamala Harris.
Kamala.
Unbelievably smart, articulate, and good.
She's great.
A bit of celebrity surrounding Kamala Harris.
Kamala just believes in the American dream. If she gets elected, we're good. But if Trump gets in, he'll never leave office.
He can never leave the office of the presidency.
Never leave office. It's just a fact. He'd never leave office. And you know he wouldn't leave because he's going to be a dictator. Dictator. That's why he's nothing but a complete Hitler, threat to our democracy, rights taking away, dictator. That makes him so
Donald Trump, his demagoguery, his danger to our country.
Dangerous to America. I'm literally sick of it. We're doomed if we get Trump back. He has to be stopped. I wonder what we can do to stop him.
Put a bullet in Donald Trump.
When you think about it, if you had a chance to take Hitler out before he took over, wouldn't that be the ethical thing to do? Well,
now, laying aside the end of that, how many of your friends that you know who are on a little bit lefty, maybe not in those exact words, but how many of them do you know that act like that? And it's a comical example of what I'm talking about, but it's not too far from the truth. You know, you take a steady diet of MSNBC, CNN, etc., or The View or whoever, and this is what you're going to get. Okay? This is what you're going to get. However, we are now at a different place. Van Jones on CNN the other day made a very interesting observation. I don't agree with everything he says here, but this makes a lot of sense when you stop and think about it. So with that, I share this one with you. Check it out.
Here's how we got beat. We got beat because the Republicans and the conservatives built a different media system that has to do with online.
Okay, now wait a minute. I'm going to stop one second. I don't know that I say the Republicans built a different media system. People built a different media system. Okay? And I wouldn't even necessarily call them conservatives. Look, you got people out there who are right down the middle, Tim Pool. You got lefties, Jimmy Dore. You got others, and names are not immediately coming to him, but you get my point. People built a different media system. And you got people on the left, you got people on the right, you got people right down the middle. But it's there. It is an alternative media system. I agree with Van Jones on that point. Okay? But I don't necessarily know I go giving Republicans credit for it. Okay? So back to the rest of the clip.
And had to do with podcasts, had to do with streaming platforms, and they were spending their money there. We were laughing at them and knocking on doors in Philadelphia and Detroit. It's like, there's no Trump people. They're not dropping literature. They're not knocking on doors.
In fact, it was laughing like, oh, Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk with their PACs don't know what they're doing.
We were making fun of Donald Trump for having thrown away his ground game and doing some weird stuff online. We thought that they were idiots. It turned out we were the idiots. We woke up in a body bag because while we were knocking on doors, they were making these phones into 24-hour-a-day political weapons for themselves. And so we got outflanked, outplayed, outbeat by people who told us the whole time that they knew what they were doing.
Okay, like I said, I don't necessarily agree with everything Van Jones said, but some of that's worth consideration, okay? To that end, I've got a piece here from the Wall Street Journal, and I'm going to go ahead and drop this on both sides on chat because I think you're going to want to read this for yourself or maybe share it around with your friends. It's really good. And it's got some pretty informative stuff in here. So to the pages of the Wall Street Journal we go. Headline, Trump's win cemented it. New media is leaving the old guard behind. Podcasts are exploding. TikTok is a news source, and traditional media is shrinking in reach and influence. Article by Isabella Simonetti and Ann Steele. We've got the following. Let me enlarge this a little bit to make it easier, if nothing else, for your host. There we go. Now we're talking. 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump sat down with podcaster Joe Rogan for 3 hours, an episode that drew more than 45 million views on YouTube and over 25 million listens across Spotify and other platforms. On election night, Rogan was among several podcast hosts who got shout-outs in Trump's celebration victory. It underscored what the 2024 race made clear. A new media landscape has emerged. The traditional gatekeepers of political discourse, TV networks and newspapers, are shrinking in influence as Americans turn to many more outlets for information. The percentage of people listening to podcasts in a given month has more than tripled in a decade. In the social media realm, more than half of TikTok users say they regularly get their news on the platform, according to a Pew Research Center. Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter has had a major impact with political content, especially right-leaning posts blanketing new user feeds. TV remains a massive draw for Americans in the biggest moments, but the younger audiences have fled, and there were signs even on election night of an overall erosion in the medium. Now listen to this. The main three cable channels were down 32% in viewership compared to 2020 to turn around 21 million, with CNN losing almost half of its audience. The upshot? Americans are hearing different narratives about current events from very different places. Many factors might have contributed to the election's outcome, but the media world's fracturing is hard to ignore. Quote, our information landscape has splintered into more and more pieces. Large institutional news organizations are a smaller part of the geography, said Nancy Gibbs, a former editor-in-chief at Time, who's director of Harvard's Shorenstein Center on Media, Politics, and Public Policy. So many voters were all watching different campaigns play out with different messages and meaning and momentum. Freewheeling online talk shows hosted by comedians, YouTubers, and other celebrities are designed to entertain as much as to inform. They are competing for attention with mainstream media organizations having a different mission and who are bound by editorial standards. Some 47% in the U.S. have listened to a podcast in the past month, including nearly 60% of people who are under 35, according to Edison Research. And 54% of podcast listeners say getting news or political analysis is an important benefit of the medium, according to the industry advisory and data tracker Sounds Profitable. Trump went on about 20 podcasts this year, including the comedian Theo Von's show and Barstool Sports' Bussin' with the Boys. The interview with Rogan, who wound up endorsing Trump right before the election, was the culmination of a strategy to appeal to younger men. Trump got the support of 56% of voters age 18 to 29, according to the AP VoteCast survey on electorate. The whole manosphere is listening to podcasts, Marina Hyde from The Rest is Entertainment said during a live stream podcast on Tuesday. Vice President Kamala Harris embraced podcasts as well, sitting down with Brene Brown, whose show is popular among older women. She had a high-profile appearance on Call Her Daddy, a show about sex and relationships, which drew an audience of more than 8 million across platforms. Shauna Devalier, a 55-year-old freelance photographer from Marietta, Georgia, said she listens to podcasts to get a variety of viewpoints and avoids cable news. People are waking up to real conversations versus the structured and inauthentic ways to get your information. Devalier, a longtime registered Democrat, was a supporter of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and felt she was silenced by the party. She cast her vote for Trump. Musk, a Trump backer, took to Twitter after the results to share his view that citizen journalists are overtaking the media. Quote, you are now the media, he told more than 200 million followers. On TikTok, many news influencers, ordinary people who offer their take on current events, generate more viral posts, those with 25,000 or more views, than such mainstream outlets as CNN, CBS, NBC, the Wall Street Journal found. New York University student and Democrat Party advocate Harry Sisson's video about Trump's election victory raked in 6.7 million views on TikTok, more than 3.2 million views on NBC's news, and similar posts, etc., and so on. Folks, it's undeniable now. It is absolutely undeniable. Okay? And again, I dropped this in chat on both sides. I really recommend it to you. And the shift is long overdue. Long overdue. Yeah, that's a good point. Editorial standards, whatever. But you see the point. You are now the media. I'm the media. Benny Johnson is the media. Tim Pool is the media. I mean, name whoever you're talking about. Morning Mayhem, My Morning Mayhem is the media. Quote, and he said, and Chris says, we are making a difference. Absolutely we are. Look, in the grand scheme of things, I know that my little live stream is and my channels are very small. I acknowledge that. But I'm one voice. Chris is one voice. Sean from Third Railify up in Canada, he's another voice. Robert Hare from the Washcast is another voice. Okay? We are making a difference. Comics Division is making a difference on his channel. Brahma Bull is making a difference. Carrie Smith is making a difference. Tracy Barkley from Gen X Marks the Spot is making a difference. Chrissy Mayer is making a difference. Megyn Kelly is making a difference. It's not just one person. I mean, for the longest time, there was, in talk radio, there was Rush and there was everybody else. But as time went by, different folks got into that space. We're now at a sea change in terms of media consumption now. And I think it's great. This is awesome. Genuinely, truly, it is awesome. And it can only, here's another great one. Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, who now runs a channel called CobraCast. He's doing his thing. It's great. It's absolutely awesome. Mike Harlow. On and on and on. Link Lauren, another, influential person. He's out there on TikTok doing his thing. I think it's great. Another great, quite frankly, is a great one. On and on and on. It's just thousands of people making a difference. WWG1 says 10 years ago, it wasn't possible to easily broadcast over the internet. Absolutely. And this change will get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We can sit here all afternoon listing names of great people, large and small and everywhere in between. I got news for the legacy media. That means you're gay. No. I got news for the mainstream media. We're now the new media. It's just a matter of time. And we're proving it every day. The Indian Jesus is a good one. Absolutely, Zippy. Even on radio, Dave Jonda, Operation Freedom. Bingo. Bingo. Absolutely, man. Christian Watson. Darius Simpson from Real Talk. Ruben Christopher Haynes. On and on and on it goes. Very fake and very gay. Yeah, how could I forget these two guys? Alex Jones, Steven Crowder. This is an extraordinary time. It's an amazing time. Culture Casino. And how can I forget Culture? Literally, we could all sit here and list names after names after names after names, man. And it just gets bigger and better from here. So, and I guess this message is as much for me as for anybody else. Keep on plugging. Keep on. Yeah, that's right. You're here. That's right. You're here, my brother. Fist bump to you. We're not going. We got news for the mainstream media. We're not going anywhere. That sound you hear out there in the distance, that's us coming up behind you. And that sound's just going to get louder and louder and louder and louder. And we're not going to stop. And you can't stop us. You might temporarily slow us down, but you can't stop us. And depending on what happens in the next few years ahead, we'll either accelerate the growth of what we do, or might just slow it down, but you ain't going to stop us now. We have broken through. And not just because Donald Trump got elected. This isn't about, I'll never forget years ago when Rush Limbaugh was starting to explode on the radio scene, right? And then 1992 came along and someone said to him, well, George Bush lost the presidency. Now Bill Clinton's going to be president. What are you going to talk about? He's like, my success is not dependent upon who's in the White House. And as a matter of fact, Rush got even bigger in the Clinton years. So what happens now with new media? Like I say, we might be slowed down a little bit depending on what actions are taken, but you ain't stopping us now. There's no going back. It's never going to be the same again. And you guys in the mainstream media know it, but you just don't want to admit it. Which I understand why. But it's going to be glorious the next few years. And hopefully I get to have some fun. Well, I will have fun doing it. I hope to have a whole lot of fun doing it. growing this little channel and doing its thing. So ain't no stopping us now. Absolutely. Ain't no stopping us now. But yeah, just thought you guys might enjoy that. And I really do. I recommend that piece from the Wall Street Journal to you. I think you will enjoy it. All right. We are now to the last compartment on the train, and that is HodgePodge stew. So let me do a real quick commercial, and we'll get to a couple things I found that are really, really interesting. At least I think they're kind of funny, actually. Real quick commercial. It is 12:35. I'm sorry. Jeez, I can't even read the clock anymore. My name is Brian Tripp, and I'm the Front Porch Conservative, and you have found your way to Front Porch Brunch. This is a live stream we do on the weekends where we get together, we talk about the news, take everybody's temperature, see how they're doing out there, that sort of thing. If you enjoy this kind of commentary and what we're doing here, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, and while you're at it, get some friends to do it too. Okay? Like I said, I am real close to 1,000 on YouTube, and I'd love to get there before the end of the year. So please subscribe to the channel, share the link around, and for right now, hit the thumbs up button, okay? Give me some thumbs up, give me some comments in chat, help me out here. Let's grow this thing. All right. HodgePodge stew. For those of you who are here or listening and you may be new, there is a section of the show that deals with stories that are not necessarily top of mind on the internet, but I find them interesting or I find them funny and I pass them on and, thought you guys might enjoy them. And we call that HodgePodge stew because it's a whole big mix of things, okay, or small mix. And I found a couple of things as we close out the live stream today I thought you might enjoy. It's amazing. Donald Trump has been elected president after Tuesday night. The man hasn't even been sworn in yet, and stuff is happening all over America. As a matter of fact, out of New York City, we find this little tidbit of information. Check this out.
News, the mayor just announced that the city will no longer issue vouchers to migrants to pay for food, ending a controversial program that had repeatedly come under attack by conservatives and others.
This pilot program in New York City, drenched in both humanity and controversy, distributed debit cards to migrant families staying in city-funded hotels and allowing them to buy their own food. Eyewitness News reporter Josh Einiger following the breaking news for us. Josh?
Well, Bill, it's a program that, as you say, generated plenty of controversy, but now its absence may raise even more questions. The so-called Immediate Response Cards pilot program was designed to help feed migrant families who'd found themselves in New York with no way to afford food. The one-year contract provided what the city described as culturally relevant food to 2,600 migrant families, allowing them to basically buy what they wanted. A family of four with two kids under 5 got about $350 per week to cover food in a program the city said would actually save taxpayers millions a year. It also reduced food waste. You may remember the food the city had been providing in migrant shelters was seen as not culturally sensitive to the needs of some migrant groups, and it ended up just going to waste. For more than a year, the city was groaning under the weight of more than 200,000 asylum seekers. Officials say the migrant population has actually reduced lately. In fact, a massive shelter on Roosevelt Island is in the process of closing. In the meantime, Mayor Adams spoke on the phone yesterday with President-elect Donald Trump, who had vowed during his campaign to mass deport migrants. Aside from congratulating him on his win, though, Adams today would not say what they discussed.
Well, I don't disagree with you on that, my dear. I don't disagree with you at all. But yeah, I would give a lot to know how that conversation went between I'd give a lot to know how that conversation went between Mayor Adams of New York City and Donald Trump. WWG1 says they are trying to start a war by cutting off their benefits. Hadn't thought about it from that angle, but that's something to consider. Possible indeed. One more story, and this one is, I guess, what you call a piece of advice on how one possible way that you might deal with your relatives during the holidays. And I really can't believe I'm playing this one, but you know what? It definitely deserves some commentary. Joy Reid of MSNBC had a guest on, and they were talking about how you should treat your friends, and particularly your relatives, coming up during the holidays in light of what happened during the election. So, like I say, post this one under what you may or may not want to do with your relatives.
Challenge with the idea of how do you interact with people who you know voted for this, right? If you are an LGBTQ person and you know someone in your family voted essentially against your rights, or you're a woman knowing that, this man was calling people the B word, J.D. Vance was literally calling Kamala Harris the trash and said, we're going to take out the trash. I know a lot of Black women were incredibly triggered by that. And if you then meet somebody and you know they voted for the people who called you trash, or if you're Puerto Rican, and you know someone voted that way, do you recommend, just from a psychological standpoint, being around them? We got the holidays coming up.
So I love that you asked this question because, there is a push, I think just a societal norm that if somebody is your family, that they are entitled to your time. And I think the answer is absolutely not. So if you are going to a situation where you have family members, where you have close friends who have voted in ways that are against you, like what you said, against your livelihood, and it's completely fine to not be around those people and to tell them why, to say, I have a problem with the way that you voted because it went against my very livelihood, and I'm not going to be around you this holiday. I need to take some space for me. And I actually
so much for the loving and tolerant left. Now, are you listening to these two women? If they had their way about it, you wouldn't even be able to sit down at a table and break bread with someone who disagrees with you. I thought we're supposed to be all about, love and togetherness and getting together and making things work. And the society that I grew up in said, yeah, even if you don't agree with someone, you still sit down, you try and find a way to, work it out. You break bread. Then you go fight like cats and dogs in the political arena. Not so much. Yeah, love, joy, peace, and tolerance. There you go. There you go. I don't know, but we'll look into that. Yeah, and this is a good point. Yeah, when we lost 08 and 12, I didn't get mad. I didn't go crazy on January 20, 2021. I just got up in the morning and went to work and went about my business. I didn't like it, but I did it. And with that, we're going to go ahead and bring it into the station, as it were. I want to thank you guys for being here this morning for Front Porch Brunch. It is the weekend. I want you guys to go out and have fun. I want you to spend time with your families, do the things you love doing. And you know what? I don't know what it is, but the sun seems to be shining a little bit brighter. The birds are singing a little sharper. Sky's a little bluer since Tuesday. Don't know why. Couldn't figure that one out. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for the super chats, the Rumble rants, the comments, the laughs. You guys are the best audience on the internet. I love you guys to death. And happy early birthday to the Marine Corps. Hurrah! Absolutely. Anyway, I love all you guys. You have a great weekend. Spend time with your families. Tell them that you love them, even though they might have voted for Kamala, but that's okay. In the meanwhile, we'll get back together Monday evening at 7:30 for Chatting on the Porch. But with that, have a great weekend. And as we leave, remember the words of that legendary American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." We'll see you Monday night at 7:30.